All right, here we go with 6.05. We're going to continue designing an observational study, and we're going to attempt to do so without bias. So, types of bias, and this is something that I'm pretty confident all of you understand, but I want to make sure we have a clear definition of what exactly bias is. So, a situation is bias if it favors one outcome or group more than it should. So, for example, if you want to decide whether college students prefer Coca-Cola to Pepsi and you only go to the math department, your situation is going to favor the group that takes math classes or is a math major. And so our goal is to eliminate bias from all the parts of our study. So the first is that you could have bias in your selection or sampling, right? You could be selecting a group of people to do your study on that does not accurately represent your population. And these are things that you should want to write down if it's not something that you are already really familiar with. The way in which you pick the people that you are sampling could also be biased, right? Maybe you're picking people by walking around and choosing the people you like the best, right? You're not going to get a very accurate reading of your population. So you need to make sure that your sample is a random sampling of the population. The next is that you could have a survey bias, right? So in giving out your survey, you may or may not have a question which will be biased towards one type of outcome. So maybe I create a survey in which the two options are written differently, right? So maybe I have option A, and this is pencils, right? Maybe I want to see if the people use pencils or pens. And then option B is like down on the corner, and it's like this, and it's written, pen is written like that, right? So that would be, more people are going to choose pencils because they probably have no idea what that is. Also, perhaps your survey is biased in that it asks a question in a skewed way, right? So you could, for example, in your question, sort of have a connotation where one thing seems worse than the other. Would you rather drink delightful, bubbly Coca-Cola or sugary Pepsi, right? People are going to, in reading the question, you're going to skew their feelings. And then also, reporter bias. So people may be biased in their reporting of themselves. So this is something that you have to consider, right? If you are asking people a question and they, might be self-conscious about one of the answers, it might cause bias. So you might want to think of a method in which you could tease out the information without people feeling, self-conscious or worried that their reputation is going to be hurt. So in this case, having a survey where people are taking the survey maybe in the private of their own home via email, and you're guaranteeing that they don't have to enter their name, that might help people feel less like lying about the current situation. So remember, in constructing any observational study, or any study in general, you need to make sure you do not have selection or sampling bias. In other words, your sample represents the population as best it possibly can. Your survey must not be biased, and the people who are reporting, maybe through survey or in any other way, shouldn't be biased either. One last thing that I will say is that another form of an incorrect sample would be one that is too small. So if you are trying to gauge the feelings of a population of 1,000 people, if you only poll 5 of them, you're probably not going to get a very good estimate. So that is also something to consider when you are drawing up a plan. So let's take a look at a couple of situations to help us make sure we're feeling good about these things. You want to find out which political party most college students or is most popular at a college campus, and so the Pollsters use a random number generator to select an equal number of students from each grade based on their ID numbers. They gave a student survey to the selected students as is shown below. So the survey says, circle the political party to which you belong: Democrats, Republicans, Independents. Identify any bias and how it might skew the results. So there is a lot of different places where you can look for bias here, and you should make sure that in all of the options that we talked about previously, there is no bias. So pause the video right now and go through and locate bias in any of those that you spot. Okay, so a couple of things to note, and I'm not going to write this down, but you definitely should so that you can go back and use it to review for future tests, is that if you are picking an equal number of students from each grade, you actually are misrepresenting your population, because you could imagine that at this school, the number of kids at the school is not broken up evenly by each grade. So if you're picking an even amount from each grade, some of the grades are going to be overrepresented and some are going to be underrepresented. So you'll actually want to, there are two things that you can do to fix this. The first is that you could figure out what the proportion of the population is for each grade. So you might find, let's just write this out, we have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, right? You might find that 35% are freshmen, 25% are sophomores, another 20% are juniors, and if I can do my math right, let's see here, 35 plus 25 is going to be 60, plus another 20 is 80, and so you'd have 20% that are seniors, and so you would want to, of your sample, you'd want 35% of them to be freshmen, 25% of them to be sophomores, 20% of them to be juniors, and 20% of them to be seniors, and then you just have to randomly select that number. So that's one way that you could do it. For example, if you were to take a sample of 100 people, right, you have 35 freshmen, 25 sophomores, 20 juniors, and 20 seniors. And you'd want to randomly select those. Or you could just go to the school roster and you could pick out 100 random from the school roster. Another place that bias is showing up is in the survey itself. So you want to know which political party is most popular. Now, saying that the political party to which you belong, some people may not belong to the political party. They may be a little confused about what that means. And so you might want to rephrase the question a little bit. So you might want to think about that. Another thing is that Democrats, Republicans, Independents are listed in this order. If someone has no idea what they're doing, they're going to select Democrats. They're just going to pick the first one. Or maybe they just pick the last one. So what you want to do is you want to have 3 surveys in which you have Democrats first, Republicans second, Independents third, another one where you have Republicans first, Democrats second, Independents third, you switch it up, so on and so forth. In fact, you could even, and this might be the best way to do it, you would want to choose all the possible ways that you could write this. So there are more than 3 possible ways. If you think about it, if you put Democrats first, then you could have Republicans second, Independents third, or you could do Democrats first with Independents second and Republicans third. And if you did Republicans first, you could have Democrats second and Independents third. And if you did Republicans first, you could also have Independents second and Democrats third. And if you put the Independents first, you could have Democrats second and Republicans third. And if you put Independents first, you could also have Republicans second and Democrats third. Okay, so there would be 6 different possible surveys that you could give out. All right, we'll have one more here. So there's a quiz tomorrow, and so you'll want to prepare for that. And what I'm going to do on the quiz is just give you a situation and ask you to design a observational study from scratch. So here is one to practice on. We want to decide whether students at Verbum Dei think doing homework improves their grades. So design an observational study that uses a sample of the population to estimate the desired parameter. So it'd be important to remember what population and desired parameter mean, but you can go back and look at your notes for those. Those are in 6.02. So design your whole study from scratch. That's what I'll be looking for tomorrow, and best of luck.